I'm making a series of videos on how I use my table saw, and in the one where I show my favorite push stick, I had a comment from someone that reminded me of a problem that a lot of guys have when they're feeding stock through the saw. You'll run your left hand, like the finger and thumb of your left hand, against the edge of the stock as you're feeding it through. And occasionally, and it really depends upon the type of wood that you're dealing with, you'll get a splinter in your finger or your thumb as you're passing it through. Now that's a comment that I got a few years ago as well. And at the time, I remember thinking that I should make something that'll protect your thumb and your finger while you're doing that. Something small and easy to use. It has a triangular notch on the corner that matches the corner on the board and allows you to run the board through the saw without any fear of getting a splinter. You can use any type of wood to make one of these, but I've got a scrap of walnut that's big enough. First step is to cut it to length, and that depends upon the size of your hand, really. But I figured out for mine is 3.5 inches long, and then it's already 1 1/4 inches thick, so all I need to do is cut it to width, which is 1.5. And now I can bring it over to the drill press and drill the hole. And I actually experimented with this for the correct size. I found that 1 inch is too big, it's too sloppy. And the bit that I'm using now, which is 7/8, is a little bit tight. So what I'm doing is I'm drilling the hole first, about 2 inches deep. And then I'm going to move it over slightly and ream out the hole so it's just a bit wider. And this is something that you can do with Forstner bits, but I wouldn't try to use a spade bit to do this. And another thing is that you really want to get this in a vise. You don't want to be holding it with your fingers. To make mine a little bit more comfortable to wear, I'm going to just slightly round over the edge of that hole. I'm going to do that first with a carving knife, and then I'm going to fine tune that with some sandpaper. And it doesn't take long to round over the outside corners, so I'll do that too. And then the important part of this is the notch that you cut into the side that's opposite your fingers when you're holding it. This notch is going to fit around the corner of the board as you're pushing it through. And that way you're not going to get any splinters in your fingers. And there are several ways to do that, but I think the best way is to just cut it by hand. And then you can take it over to the table saw, and without starting the machine, you can try it out and see how it fits and how it feels. You'll notice that the V-groove is over towards one side. That'll be the down position for this thumb-mounted push stick. And that's so that you can do relatively thin stock with it. And I noticed on the first try that it's not sitting correctly, so I'll tune that up with the chisel and try it again. Still not quite there, so a little bit more tuning up. And I should point out that this doesn't have to be a work of art. It just has to feel right, and that's the important part. If it feels good while you're using it, you're more likely to use it. Last thing to do is to make a simple holder that's in a convenient place, and that's right here on the end of my table saw. When I need it, I can quickly put it on, and when I'm finished with it, quickly put it back. I really like the way this works, but I'm not going to be using it for every cut. I'll save it for the extra splintery wood, or if I have a lot of rip cuts to do at the same time. It makes sense because even just the friction from rubbing your finger on the edge, especially of something like plywood, it can actually wear down the skin on your fingers unless you got a lot of callus there to protect it.